Beginning, the day the sky burned. War had many faces, but none as terrifying as the Korth Dominion descending upon a peaceful world. For the Vilari people, a slender, luminous species known more for diplomacy than violence, war was something studied in archives, not lived. Their planet, Vila Prime, glimmered with crystalline towers, soft blue forests, and academies dedicated to science and art. And then the Korth arrived. They came in ships that looked like serrated knives, slicing through the atmosphere with roaring plasma engines. Their soldiers, hulking reptilian marauders wrapped in living armor, stormed every city simultaneously. Within hours, the Vilari defenses were shattered. Within a day, the Dominion had overrun the capital. Within a week, extinction loomed. High Minister Seelan stood inside the shattered council spire, watching smoke rise from the city below. Their last shield generator flickered. The enemy pressed closer with each breath. "We cannot repel them," General Kethos whispered. "Our weapons barely scratch their armor. Our ships fall before they can reach orbit." "And reinforcements?" Seelan asked, though he already knew. "No one is coming. No species dares provoke the Dominion." Silence. Cold. Heavy. Final. Seelan closed his eyes. "Then we have no choice." Kethos stiffened. "You can't mean." "Yes. We send the call." "To them?" Seelan nodded grimly. "To a human." The room fell silent in disbelief and fear. Humans were a legend among the Vilari, reckless, unpredictable, fierce. A species with no fear of pain and no sense of self-preservation, who fought like cornered beasts and survived the impossible. They had been contacted once, long ago, but the Vilari never allied with them. Humans frightened them. But now, the alternative was death. Minister Seelan keyed the ancient communicator, a relic from a forgotten alliance. A single message was sent across the galaxy. "Human. We are dying. Help us." Middle, his arrival changed everything. They didn't expect an answer. And yet, less than 13 hours later, a ship ripped out of warp above Vila Prime. It wasn't a battleship. It wasn't even a military cruiser. It was small, ugly, patched with metal plates soldered at strange angles, more like a space truck than a starship. General Kethos blinked. "That's it." The ship landed in the ruined courtyard of the council spire. Dust settled. A ramp hissed open, and down walked a single human. He wore no armor. He carried no visible weapon. He looked tired, holding a steaming mug of coffee that somehow survived the landing. "Name's Grant Mercer," he said. "Got your distress call. Hope I'm not too late." Seelan stared. "You came alone." Grant sipped his coffee with a shrug. "Your message said you needed a human, not an army." "But the Korth Dominion is one of the strongest forces in the galaxy." Grant sighed. "Yeah, I saw the fleet on the way in. Real unpleasant folks." Kethos frowned. "Do you have weapons?" "Sure." He tapped the side of his head. "Up here." The Vilari exchanged confused glances. Grant set down his coffee, rolled his shoulders, and asked casually, "All right, show me where it's worst." The Battle of the Eastern Ridge. The Eastern Ridge had fallen hours earlier. The Korth used it as a staging ground, piling artillery and heavy infantry there. When Grant arrived with Seelan and Kethos, the Dominion forces laughed. A single unarmored human approaching a fortified ridge? A joke. An offering. A sacrifice. The Korth warlord stomped forward, towering above him. "You dare approach us alone, fleshling?" Grant cracked his knuckles. "Yep. You bring no army, no Starfleet, not even a blade. Grant pointed at his own face. This is the weapon. The warlord sneered. Then die. Grant punched him. One punch. The shockwave flattened 3 Dominion soldiers, cracked the ridge, and sent the warlord flying a full kilometer. The Vilari gaped. Kethos, Seelan whispered, is this normal for humans? No, the general said quietly. In human records, this is below average. Grant grinned as the Dominion troops hesitated. All right, boys, he called out. Who's next? The Korth opened fire. Grant stepped forward. And then the Vilari learned why humans were feared. Grant didn't dodge the plasma shots. He walked through them. He ignored lasers that should have cooked a tank. He smashed through war machines with his bare hands, tore apart armored beasts like they were cardboard, and ripped cannons from the ground to use as improvised clubs. Every blow he delivered cracked the sky with thunder. Every step shook the earth. Every roar sent Dominion soldiers scrambling in fear. Within minutes, the ridge belonged to the Vilari again. Grant dusted his hands. All right. What's next? The turning point, a human's fury and a human's heart. Over the next 40 hours, Grant Mercer became a nightmare whispered across the Dominion ranks. He liberated cities single-handedly, destroyed entire regiments, crushed fortresses with his fists, stopped missiles with his palms, carried wounded Vilari to safety without ever slowing down. But the moment that changed the war forever came when he found the Korth experimenting on Vilari civilians in a biolab. Grant went silent. His expression changed. Seelan had seen humans express sadness and anger, but this was different. This was the fury of a species that had burned its own world twice and still survived. Grant stepped into the lab. The guards aimed their rifles. He didn't touch them. The weapons bent in their hands. He didn't move toward them. The ground beneath them opened. He didn't raise his voice. But the temperature dropped so sharply their armor frosted. Leave, Grant said quietly, or I stop holding back. They fled. Grant freed every prisoner, carrying them out one by one, treating them with gentle care that contrasted starkly with his unstoppable strength. Kethos whispered to Seelan, I understand now. Humans aren't feared because they are powerful. Seelan nodded. They are feared because of what they become when someone they care about is hurt. Grant had met the Vilari less than 2 days before, but he cared. Deeply, fiercely, humanly. The final battle, the last call was answered. The Dominion's high command descended with a vengeance. A flagship miles long. Weapons capable of shaving continents. Legions ready to wipe out what remained of Vila Prime. Seelan stood on the balcony as the shadow fell over the capital. This is it, he murmured. We cannot win. Grant cracked his neck. Yeah, you can. Just need a minute. He walked out alone toward the incoming fleet. The Vilari watched, breathless. The Dominion flagship opened fire, a beam bright enough to blind gods. Grant raised his hand. The beam hit him. And stopped. Not slowed. Not deflected. Stopped. The air trembled. Space warped. The beam curved around him like light around a black hole. Grant took a step. The beam broke. Dominion soldiers screamed across the comms. What is that human? Grant leapt. A single leap that carried him up, into the stratosphere, through clouds, through enemy fire. And he landed on the Dominion flagship with enough force to flip the vessel upside down. He tore through the hull, ripped out the power core, crushed the command deck. And when the flagship exploded, Grant descended from the fireball like an avenging meteor. The Dominion forces broke. They fled in terror, leaving the Vilari free for the first time in weeks. Ending a debt that would shape history. Days later, Vila Prime began to rebuild. Grant stood at the edge of the restored council spire as Seelan approached. "You saved us," the minister said softly. "We have no way to repay what you've done." Grant shrugged. "You called." I answered. "That is not enough," Seelan said. "Tell us how we can honor you." Grant looked out at the city, at the families reunited, the lights returning, the laughter creeping back into the streets. "Just live," he said. "That's good enough." Kethos bowed. "If ever your people need us." Grant smiled. "I know. And maybe one day, humans will call you back." He boarded his patched-up ship. The Vilari watched their unlikely savior disappear into the stars. And the story spread. When the galaxy was silent, when allies turned away, when extinction loomed, a human answered the last call. And the galaxy would never forget it.